What's up Raiders, Bionic here with another video on Raid Shadow Legends. This one will be longer but should provide some very useful information on the current champion ranking as established by players in the community. I know there are other similar videos out there, but I thought I would share my thoughts as well and provide a link to these lists in the description. Hopefully this will help you guys make better choices when it comes to deciding which champions to rank up and invest skill tomes in. I also want to point out that these lists were created by Reddit users and therefore I take absolutely no credit for them. In fact, you guys should upvote their threads on Reddit to support them if you found this information useful. One more thing I will point out is that these rankings are subjective and also heavily depend on the other champions you have. So in other words, it's not because you have one of the top 3 legendary champions that you will necessarily perform well in the arena or against the clan boss. The overall performance of your team is directly related to the synergies or abilities that each champion brings to the table. What you will notice, however, is that the abilities and their effects between each top-rated champions are very similar. Effects like poison, weaken, attack down, defense down, counter attack, etc. So in any way, let's jump right in because we have a few things to cover first. The video will be divided into 2 parts. I will first briefly cover the campaign, more specifically farming brutal, and then I will briefly cover the clan boss and finally briefly cover the arena before I move on to the second part, which is the top 5 rare, epic, and legendary champions. By the end of the video, you guys should have a basic understanding of what the endgame is for each aspect of the game and which champions could be considered solid options to have for each of those teams. So first off, the campaign. Once completed on Brutal, whether 3-star or not, you guys will want to have a solid farmer, which means a character that can clear stage 12-3 or 12-6 on Brutal by himself with 3 other lower level champions to level up as food. The faster this champion can clear the stage, then the faster you can level up your other champions. As a reference point, almost any level 60 attack or defense champion with decent gear can do it under 2 minutes. Solid level 60 champions can do it under 30 seconds, and fully geared ideal champions can do it under 10 seconds. And by ideal, I mean probably an attack champion that has an AoE or area of effect A1, or perhaps on his A2 or A3 with a very short cooldown. Examples of a rare champion could be any of the starter ones such as Ethel, Kale, Gallic, or Elaine, and an ideal one could be Bellower. Obviously, epic or legendary champions would be even better. Therefore, I suggest that you guys use this list to identify which champion is better suited for this, but will also be useful for the next 2 aspects. Which leads me to the next part, the clan boss. So without going too much into details as to what is an ideal clan boss team, I will just point out the overall guidelines that you should follow when picking your champions. In fact, the clan boss strategy is covered in detail by community player Bade in the official Discord server, who made a detailed guide on Reddit about it. A link will be available in the description to his guide. So in short, there are certain buffs and debuffs that are mandatory to use on the clan boss. Attack down, weaken, and decrease defense being prime examples that you would ideally want to have up 100% of the time. Poison, HP burn, and enemy max HP damage abilities being 3 more that will help tremendously with your damage output before and even after you get the Giant Slayer mastery. As for the buffs, speed up, turn meter increase, counter attack being other prime examples of ways to greatly improve your damage. So with that in mind, you guys will better understand some of my topics and why I think the clan boss should be your main focus. The third part is the arena. Now there are countless team possibilities and I am no expert yet, but from what I've seen, you can either focus on an attack heavy team or defense heavy team, stack as much speed as possible, and have either turn meter increase, turn meter decrease, or both. Another strategy I've noticed is to simply go all out on defense, perhaps even sacrificing some speed, and focus on sustainability to outlast your opponent. Obviously, I cannot say which strategy works best because it all depends on which champions you have, their rank, their skill level, and their gear. However, in my opinion, it will be easier to focus on an attack team with high speed in the beginning since those types of champions are more readily available. But then again, it all depends on the pulls you get from your shards. Alright, so now that I'm done with this little intro and giving you guys some background for each of the 3 aspects of the endgame, let's get to the good part, the top 5 rare, epic, and legendary champions based on their overall usefulness according to these lists, but also based on my own opinion of what I've learned so far. If you guys don't agree, feel free to let me know why, and I will gladly revise this list in the future, as I can imagine that veteran players will have way more wisdom to offer than I do. So for the rare champions, Attel from the Sacred Order is one of my top picks, mainly because of her triple A1 with weekend debuff, which is perfect for the Giant Slayer mastery, and a strong area of effect A2, which makes her a decent farmer in the beginning, a strong early option in the arena, and an excellent clan boss and dungeon option as well, especially for the Fire Knight dungeon. The second rare champion would be Coldheart from the Dark Elves because of her quadruple A1 with heal reduction debuff, which is perfect for Giant Slayer, a 5% poison debuff A2, and an enemy max HP and turn meter decrease A3, which also makes her an excellent clan boss and dungeon option. Next up would be Apothecary from the High Elves because of his triple A1, which is perfect for the Giant Slayer mastery, a strong single target heal A2 that can crit, and a 30% speed buff and 15% turn meter increase A3, which makes him a worthy arena option and more importantly a very strong clan boss and dungeon option, especially for the Fire Knight as well. In fourth place, we would have Kale from the Dark Elves because of his 2.5% poison debuff A1, a strong area of effect A2 with turn meter increase on enemy kills, and a quadruple A4 with 5% poison debuff, which is perfect for Giant Slayer, but it has a long cooldown, still making him a decent farmer, a strong early arena option, as well as a strong early clan boss and dungeon option also. And finally, Belor from the Ogryn tribes because he is a Void champion with 3 AoE abilities that can block skill cooldowns, decrease speed, decrease attack, and defense, which makes him an excellent farmer, a potentially strong arena option, very useful in the Spider dungeon, but unfortunately not so useful for the clan boss. And now on to the epic champions, where my first pick would be Juliana from the Sacred Order because of her double A1 with 10% meter increase on crits, which is good for Giant Slayer, a 30% crit rate buff and 5% poison debuff double A2, which is also good for Giant Slayer, and an HP burn A3, making her a fantastic clan boss and I suppose a very good dungeon option as well. Next up would be Gorga Rob from the Undead Hordes with his buff removal A1, a 15% turn meter increase and 50% increase attack A2, a 25% revive followed by a 25% group heal A3, and finally his 23% speed increase aura in the arena, which makes him a formidable arena option and also useful option for the clan boss in the beginning. In third place, we would have Tyrell from the High Elves, mainly because of his 50% decrease attack double A1, which is good for Giant Slayer, and his potential decreased defense debuff AoE A2, which provides 2 very useful debuffs against the clan boss, making him a great option with the right team composition, but also a solid opponent in the arena. In fourth place, we would have Skullcrusher from the Ogryn tribes, mostly because of his 50% ally protection, group counterattack, and self-unkillable buff A2, which means he is a very solid option for the clan boss with the right team composition, and also a very annoying opponent to face in the arena. And finally, Steel Skull from the Skinwalkers because of his 5% poison debuff double A1, which is good for Giant Slayer, a 40% single target heal A2, and finally a 60% defense increase and 20% group heal A3, which makes him a fantastic healer option for the clan boss with decent damage capabilities. And finally, the legendary champions. My top pick would go to Xavier from the Dark Elves, mainly because of her 5% poison debuff triple A1, which is perfect for Giant Slayer mastery, the 5% poison debuff double AoE A2, which is also great for Giant Slayer, and her AoE A3, which makes her possibly the best champion for Arena, the clan boss, and dungeons. In second place, we would have Bad Alkazar from the Undead Hordes because of his 20% group heal AoE A1, a 15% 2-turn group continuous heal, and 5% poison debuff AoE A2, his 15% increased damage buff passive A3, and finally his 25% crit rate increase aura, making him possibly the best healer in the game, a perfect addition to the clan boss and dungeon teams, as well as a fantastic farmer. Next up we would have Nethril from the Undead Hordes, mainly because of his 5% poison debuff triple A1, a possible stun or 30% decreased speed debuff AoE A2, and his 75% turn meter decrease A3, making him an excellent arena option and clan boss and dungeon option as well. In fourth place we would have Sir Nicholas from the Sacred Order, a Void champion with a group shield buff AoE A2, and his 2-turn unkillable and 15% continuous heal buff A3, making him a worthy consideration for the clan boss and dungeons, but mostly a fantastic arena option. And finally, the last champion on this list, we have Marty R from the Sacred Order, mainly because of her 60% decreased defense A1, her 60% increased defense and counterattack group buff A2, her 50% decreased attack debuff and provoke AoE A3, and lastly her 33% increased defense aura, making her a worthy option for the clan boss and dungeons, but more importantly for the arena. So there it is guys, a rundown of the basics for the endgame team building and some of the top picks for each category. As you've probably noticed, I've focused many of my choices on their effectiveness in the clan boss first, since I believe it to be much more beneficial to have a solid clan boss team before arena team, like I said before. As for the brutal campaign farmer, it really shouldn't be that complicated, especially since the starter champions can fill that role in the beginning. So let me know what you guys think, like do these choices even make sense, and if not, which other champions should be considered in the top 5 in your opinion. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and later.